You got the Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. We are joined by our usual Wednesday bud from down the shore. That would be Mike Gill of the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. And this week's T-shirt is
Princeton Tigers, man. I'm feeling smart this morning. Bye week. Did a little extra studying for today.
A little self-scouting on Mike Gill.
Yep. Gotta see how to tweak and change my content.
Ivy League intelligence. With the Princeton
I've been
Tigers,
to the Princeton campus many a times up there in the Trenton area. So Ewing, Trenton, Princeton.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's
very nice spot. Very nice spot.
It's solid 10 miles north of Trenton.
Yeah.
You got to go
the Trenton area.
Okay.
You go out 206 if you're coming from like the, Hamilton out that way or whatever. There's a bunch of ways to get there. But yeah.
Agreed.
Princeton Tigers, that's the shirt today.
I like the orange. And yeah, if you went there, you're probably a pretty smart guy. We would be 0 for 3 on Ivy League attendance here on Birds 365.
It's an ode to college basketball season starting, Jody Mack.
Really?
I'm a big.
You going back to Pete Carroll? Is that what you're rolling out here?
They made a run of the Sweet 16 last year. I mean, they made a run of the. I'm a big hoop head, man. I was up late last night watching.
Gonna backdoor you to death.
Yeah, I was watching UC Irvine and San Jose. I'm a big hoop head, man.
Boy, I got to tell you, I'm negative Nelly because boy, they have ruined the regular season of college basketball.
Yeah, but I like the early season like this time. Once they get into like the conference play, I think you're right. But this early season stuff, by the way, the reason I like it early, there's a lot of money to win because the lines makers have no idea.
Well, there we go. Yeah, there we go. We found out the truth. All right. Now I accept.
I cleaned up last night. These odds makers they can't put the lines high enough for some of these games. Like Creighton last night, I get minus 36 and I'm laughing. They win by 51. I said, they can't put the line high enough for some of these games early on. Although a nice win for LaSalle over Drexel. I watched a lot of that game last night.
I didn't. I should have. I was watching the Fly Guys instead.
That was at 10:30. The Fly Guy game was at 10:30. LaSalle was a 7 game.
Okay. So what the hell was I? I watched the Rangers. They're off to a pretty damn good start. We're off. Well, I promise we're getting back to full one. Just 1 second. I do need to make this point though. College basketball. You brought up college basketball. Women's college basketball. Which, by the way. The women's championship game this past year outrated the World Series.
I saw that.
Television ratings.
Is that true?
Oh, wow. Yeah. The women's college basketball got a higher number than the World Series did.
I
will interject. I will interject this with football and bring it back there. I said this on my show yesterday. Monday, I watched the Sixers game. I then flipped to your Jets game, and in 10 minutes, I said, I'm not watching this product. No. The NFL this year has been so bad, unwatchably bad with some of these teams.
I think it's been that way for years.
It has been, but this year, John, I feel like there's so many bad teams, and they keep matching up against each other. And now the windows are spread so thin that you're getting a standalone game on Thursday. They give you the London game. Your 1 o'clock window has nothing to watch, nothing. And then at 4:25, you're hoping to get one game. And then half the time, the Jets are on in prime time. If it's not the Jets, it's the Raiders. If it's not the Raiders, it's the freaking Bears. I don't want the Raiders ever on prime time. Nobody cares about the Raiders anymore. Nobody cares ever about the Raiders. They got to stop feeding us the Raiders. They keep giving us Raiders. They got this week, you got Bears and Panthers.
Well, that's where you start getting to this time of the season and you have clearly defined awful teams and you got the schedule on Thursday night. Like, who wants to watch this game?
Who wants to watch the Bears Panthers if they're both 8-1? Nobody.
Well, that
Nobody wants to see those two
that
teams.
I disagree with. Well, if Chicago's 8-1, that's a big deal.
Chicago hasn't been good ever. Since '85, the Bears have not been good. What television?
No, they had a couple runs. They had the Rex Grossman run.
Well, what TV executive says, you know what? Prime time. Let me go with the Bears. They're going to be
Oh, everybody. The Bears are huge.
The Bears
I
have a,
know.
pretty,
Huge
they have a pretty big
Yeah.
national following, Mac.
Yeah.
I know they haven't been good. You're
Now,
right. The stat-
yeah, you're right.
the-
Right now,
status,
they're a
but-
disaster. I pick on them all the time, but that is a marquee franchise.
I get the Jets thing. They thought they were getting Rodgers, and now they don't have him. That's painful to watch. They're in the prime time every week. Every game they're on prime time.
That's not true. I suffered through Jets Giants at 1 o'clock 2 weeks ago. So
That was a
not every week.
game.
All right,
They're
they're
prime
on
time
at
against
the
them.
max amount of
You're
time.
right. I agree with you. It's a bad product overall. I agree. I've been talking about that for years.
Yet they're the only television product that is not declining. Every other one is, except for the NFL.
Yeah.
So
The
you can
ratings
bitch
are
and
great.
moan all you want, Gil.
Yeah.
Ryan Goodell laughs at you as he cleans
Yeah.
the stuff
I
out of his
know.
eye.
And
to
guess
Mike
what?
Gill.
Guess what? They're going to add teams in Germany and London, and so that they can have a 9:30 game every single week, so that they can get more money from Apple or Hulu or somebody to stream that game every Sunday at 9:30.
You're probably right. All right, but you diverted away. I wanted to get this point in because I want to keep people from looking stupid. I watched women's college basketball season opener. LSU won the championship last year, did this unbelievable number. Got beaten their opening game by Colorado.
Yeah.
And people, when Deion Sanders won his first game, had Coach Prime in the college football playoffs.
Geez.
Oh my God, the
How's
job
that
that he's
working
doing.
out?
It's historic it's iconic what Coach Prime has done. He's lost 5 of his last 6 games or whatever ridiculous number it is. Don't do that with the women's basketball. Don't be stupid enough to, Colorado's now going to make a run. No, they jumped up and they surprised the national champion in game 1. Yeah, so did your football team and then fell off the face of the earth. So don't make that stupid mistake. And one quick jet note. Zach Wilson is not only going to get himself out of the league, he's going to get Robert Saleh out of the league, and he's going to get Eagle underling Joe Douglas run out of the league too, because they refuse to admit the guy sucks. Never,
Can
ever
they
did
get
anyone
Nathaniel
ever
Hackett
say
thrown out?
he defends like Sirianni defends some of his players. Saleh does this every week. You watch him. We're stuck watching him in prime time. I watch every single snap. He stinks.
Terrible.
By the way, I
say,
can't believe this. We're 38 minutes into the show. We haven't mentioned Carson Wentz is back. I think Carson Wentz
should be on the goddamn Jets.
Yes, I
instead of
don't get
stupid
it.
Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
The mindset is fascinating to me, John, Jody. It is fascinating that you are employed by an NFL team. You know how many people watching this or just walking around would yearn for the opportunity to say, I am going to sign Tommy DeVito and actually start him. You're telling me you can't make a phone call to a guy at the grocery store that used to throw, that has more ability to actually get a play call that's a pass than Tommy DeVito. It's amazing to me where they find some of these guys to play that position. And yet Carson Wentz, who, listen, I know everybody in this town laughs and think, you're telling me that Carson Wentz isn't more equipped to play quarterback than Tommy DeVito is, or any guy the Jets are throwing out. I don't know how you live with yourself saying we are going to take that position and find the shittiest guy we can find and put him there.
I'll give you 2 reasons why that might change, Mike, going forward. And it's an excellent point you're making. Josh Dobbs. Because they get these guys and they think, they were there in camp. They've been with us. They've been sitting in the meetings. That's the reason why and then they watch them actually go out in the field and go, shoot, they can't do what we're asking them to do. You go get Josh Dobbs, you give him about 20 minutes to get ready, goes out and wins a game for the Minnesota Vikings. So I think there's a better chance going forward that the NFL teams will go, yeah, maybe we should worry more about talent level than how long he's been in the building with us and sitting in meetings and the like. If he can't play, he can't play. And he's not going to get better because we're running him through.
Yeah, I
meetings.
think, in a weird way, I think the Josh Dobbs things kind of hurts coaches a little bit because it kind of exposed that it's not, he's a rocket scientist, but it's not rocket science because, he didn't take 1 rep with the offense, not 1 rep.
No.
And he went out and won an NFL game just by making plays.
And by the way,
Sandlot
Josh
football.
Dobbs isn't any good either, but he's good enough to just get you through a game because he has NFL talent. Is he a starting quarterback week to week? No, but he at least has NFL ability.
Yeah, I'm with you. You can't throw Tommy DeVito out there. Now, Zach Wilson, I mean, look, the Jets aren't the only team that likes Zach Wilson. So this
listen, Zach Wilson has
John, ask me how much I care about that.
No, I know you don't. That's not my point.
And anyone who has any emotion toward the New York Jets should care zero about the fact that other teams like them.
That's not my point.
The Jets is, and they continue to defend him, and they continue to put him out there, and he stinks on ice.
My point is, Mike brought up Tommy DeVito. That Tommy DeVito, who doesn't have NFL level talent,
none.
That to me is different.
That's like Ben DiNucci. You get Ben DiNucci in an NFL game. Are you kidding me? Tommy DeVito. Wilson at least has NFL arm, NFL arm strength. Like, he has some NFL talent. Their offensive line's a disaster.
So I'll ask both of you. Why didn't the Jets go get Josh Dobbs?
That's a great question.
Yeah, well, they don't want to, that's the difficult part of it from a GM's perspective. We talk about it all the time. When you draft a guy, especially at that position, when you draft a guy that high, you're kind of hitched to him.
Really? San Francisco hitched to Trey Lance?
They weren't, and I give
They're
Kyle
a better
Shanahan,
organization.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan's got a bigger rope. John Lynch has got a bigger rope. Like, if you're Joe Douglas, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah, but he's
if you're Ryan Poles,
with the rope he's using.
But that's something to talk about with the owner and how owners do business. And, there are certain guys for years, it was Belichick, and even he's got a shelf life, it seems. There are certain guys here with Howie Roseman, obviously, who have longer rope. And I talk about it all the time on this show, Jody and Mike. Howie's one of the big advantages. Howie's great at his job, but he does have a big advantage in that he can afford to make mistakes.
True.
Other guys can't afford to make big mistakes, or they're shown the door immediately.
Well, the most amazing thing to me is two things. One, I don't understand how somebody drafts a player and then consistently they make a mistake and then consistently keep making the mistake. Instead of getting out in front of it and saying, I made a mistake, gaining the respect of the fans.
Exactly right.
And saying, hey, we made a mistake. We're going to move on. Instead of,
you know what? I will say this about San Francisco. If Brock Purdy didn't turn into Brock Purdy and won 13 straight games or whatever he won before he lost, they would have stuck with Trey Lance. And they would have, in other words, if they didn't hit the lottery and win a bunch of games with a 7th round pick, they would have said, oh, we got to keep going back to Trey. We got to give
I wonder if part of their mindset is they were winning games with a guy like Garoppolo, who's a nice player, not a special talent, and can afford to themselves say, we might get this quarterback at such a under market value price, and he's getting the job done. Let's just stick with him instead of, you know what I mean? Like, they have the ability to do that because it has shown that they've been able to win with a lesser talented guy.
Yeah, but I'm telling you,
Here's the other story, by the way. You guys mentioned Roseman. I tweeted this out the other night. Some guy came up to me and he said, you know what, Mike Gill? I got to say something to you. You have always been a Howie Roseman guy. So good job by you. I said, yeah, thanks, man. And I said, I thought about this. Howie Roseman got embarrassed. He got humiliated, right? He got sent down the hallway and has never held it against this organization. Never held it against the fans. My point is this.
Yeah, trust me.
At any point, he could have said, Mr. Lurie, you embarrassed me.
Howie likes to spike the football. I guarantee you, in the time that he was gone, if the New York Jets, for instance, that was his team growing up, if they called, he would have left.
Why he was gone. But now that he's back, he had every opportunity to say, you know what you did to me 5 years ago? I'm out of here. And him running down the sideline the other night, I thought about that.
Got to get an offer. Now,
Okay.
if he got an offer, he would have been out. He would have been out. He would have been out the door.
Right. When
If
you
he got
don't,
an offer,
you
why
don't,
he
you
was
don't,
in
you
the
don't know,
grooming
Mike, that
closet.
any team has ever reached out and
Now,
off the record,
he
behind
also
closed doors, said, Howie, we need you to come take over our franchise. We just don't know that conversation's ever been had.
Which is amazing.
You're giving him credit for something you don't know has ever happened.
Which is
by
amazing
the way,
in itself that nobody has reached out and tried to pluck him away, saying, yo, you know what that organization did to you? You don't remember what they did to you? And
well,
that's never
Jeffrey
happened.
also gave him a raise and said, wink, wink. Let's see how this works out. It wasn't that cut and dry. He's the only guy who got a raise to move to the other side of the building.
To take a demotion.
Yeah,
it's an amazing. Just saying. Think about him running down the sidelines against the Cowboys the other night, and think about where he was and what happened to him. And I thought to myself, this guy could leave at any time. He is widely regarded now as the best guy in this league, and it's not close.
And can I say something about? I want to say
he wants.
I want to say something about Joe Douglas real quick, because I freely admit I love Joe Douglas. Awesome dude. He has built one hell of a roster with the New York Jets. Everything else they have is ready to go. Well, the offensive line is not ready to go, but he's done a good job rebuilding that roster. But when you miss on the quarterback,
costing your job.
Everything else.
And the fact that they keep doubling down on this guy and defending this guy, that's what I'm talking about, John. I like Joe Douglas. I even like Salah as a guy. I'm still not sure how good
I don't like Salah,
but I like him as a guy. They're both dead men walking because they continue to put him out there and continue to defend him on a week in, week out basis. With anybody who watches him play, and you go, wow, this guy is bad. How is he continuing to go out there as their quarterback? How did they not go out and get Josh Dobbs? Mike brought up Tommy DeVito. Tim Boyle is their backup quarterback. They keep activating him week in and week out. They got Trevor Siemian on the practice squad. They don't want to activate him because the crowd will know and go, Trevor, because they want Zach the hell out of there. And both the general manager and the coach continue to stick to their guns about that quarterback, and it's going to cost them both their jobs. Mark my words.
That'll be interesting. Hey, because it's funny, we were doing this on Monday looking at the coach of the year odds, and Salah's in there. I mean, the fact that they have 4 wins with Zach Wilson, the team, as you mentioned, that defense is Super Bowl level good. Like, they can win the Super Bowl because that defense is that good. In fact, I thought the Jets were going to the Super Bowl this year with Rodgers. I thought they were that good. Now, the fact is their offensive line stinks. How much does that affect Wilson? Who knows? He can't play. You've got to obviously say, everybody's watching this kid and this team. Look, if Jalen Hurts was struggling to this extent, the Eagles have a veteran player in Marcus Mariota that they could, like the Jets, if they had a Mariota, could say, all right, he can get us to 9-8 and get us into the playoffs. It's unbelievable to me that they allowed it to get to this point when you have a 38-year-old starting quarterback. Now, I know they're in a tough spot because they drafted the kid number 2. You can't just cut him. But at this point, now that he's the guy, you can bench him. That's the stubbornness that I just don't understand.
Exactly. And one more quick note, and then we'll get to the Eagles. I promise, Eagle fans. Pretty good source tied to the Jets told me the main reason that Zach Wilson was retained to be the backup quarterback of the Jets this year was Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Rodgers liked him and thought he could take him under his wing and teach him and make him a better guy. Well, you can't if you can't walk. I know he's out there throwing passes before games, but he's not there every day watching.
By the way, that drives me crazy as well. He's not close to coming back. He torn his Achilles. Everybody can walk. He can throw the ball 50 yards in his sleep without his legs. He's not close to coming back.
But by the way, it's another example of not letting players dictate and be GMs because
he's Aaron Rodgers. They needed him desperately. They were going to do whatever.
I know, but it's another example for fans who think that just because you play or played that you know more than everybody.
That's true.
Another example of players being too close to some of these guys and not having an idea of This guy.
Oh yeah, that had been going on in Green Bay for years. He wanted to keep guys, and the Packers are like, "This guy's not that good," and you have this butting of the heads, and but you live with it with that kind of Hall of Fame talent. Yeah, it's gone bad. But back to the Eagles. We were talking about expectations, Mike. So we'll throw that one at you. Go back to week 1, your expectations for this team versus the bye week. Have they risen? Have they gone down? Are they the same? Where are they?
Well, then I think at the beginning of the year, Super Bowl team, you can't ever guarantee a Super Bowl or say this team is going to win the Super Bowl. But I think if they fall short of getting to that game again and giving themselves a chance to win it, you would be disappointed. And there's nothing that has happened this year that has changed that goal. Is this team has to get back to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. I mean, if you get to a Super Bowl, is it a disappointment to lose the game? Sure. Is it a disappointing season? I don't think if you make the Super Bowl and lose, you're a disappointment. But I think the expectation is this team's a Super Bowl team. Nothing has happened. The only thing that you would say
but here's where I said I didn't expect him. I said they're a Super Bowl contender. I knew they were going to be a really good team, but I thought it would get incrementally better. I thought they'd have some hiccups because of the change of the coordinators, the 5 new defensive starters, yada, 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 all that stuff. I thought it was going to be more difficult. So at this stage, they're a little bit ahead of where I thought they would be.
Yeah, and I think, though, they've been going through the speed bumps and winning at the same time. They are still incrementally kind of working their way, but their results have still been victories as opposed to working their way. And there's a hiccup here. They had the hiccup against the Jets, which was uncharacteristic. But I think what we're learning about this team that's different from last year, and that doesn't mean last year didn't have this gene in them, but I think this year's team has this. If you want to beat us, you're going to have to take off the gloves and fight us. We will scrap with you, Miami, and you don't want to scrap with us. And Miami said, no, we don't. You got us. Same with Dallas. I mean, in the end, Dallas went toe-to-toe with you, but they don't have the knockout punch to beat you yet. We talked about it last week. What's the difference between the two teams? The attention to detail, the mental toughness.
Situational football,
right.
Dak
They
Prescott.
lack that area. Yeah. Dallas lacks the attention to detail, to step out of bounds of the 2-point conversion, to not spike the football, to take a delay of the game penalty. The tight end, you can say, well, Blankenship got there a little early. Okay, by any means, by the way, any NFL fan should not want that to be called pass interference. The guy caught the freaking ball, whether there was a guy kind of tagging. The guy ran the route short. That's what happened. He ran the route short, and he got tackled short of the goal line. If he runs the route, it doesn't matter that Blankenship was hanging on his back. If he caught the ball, he would have been in the end zone, but he wasn't. The lack of attention to detail. So the Eagles say, if you want to beat us, you are going to have to get out of your comfort zone. And that's who they are right now. And there's not a lot of teams that I can think of that want to get out of their comfort zone. The teams want to win their style. They don't want to win the Eagles style. And they're one of the very, very few. The Bengals, I think, are a good team down the road. Kansas City, we know, is pretty solid.
Ravens.
The Ravens are a team that might want to, I was going to say, the Ravens are the one team that might want to play where they stand in the cage with you and go, let's go. Let's scrap.
Agreed on all fronts there. The Ravens are playing damn good football right now. I gave a Ruben Frank stat earlier about the Eagles not blowing anybody out, win by 14-plus points at any given game. The only team in the last 23 years to be 8-0 or 9-0 or 8-1 and not have a blowout victory on their resume. And I asked John what he thought that meant from it. More particular to the Philadelphia Eagles stat here, and I looked this one up myself last night. Last year's season, including 3 playoff games, which includes the Super Bowl, of course, 17 games and 3 playoff games. How many times do you think Jalen Hurts rushed for 50 or more yards in 20 games last year, Mike Gill?
Man, that's a good question. Probably 6.
How about 8?
Okay, yeah.
8 games of over 50 yards. Well, we're 9 games into the season, so if they play 20 again, we're almost to the halfway mark if they go to the Super Bowl. How many times did Jalen Hurts run for over 50 yards?
Maybe 1.
Once.
Yeah.
So he's just not running. Now we can chalk it up to the injury of late for sure. He doesn't want to talk about it, but you can all see that the knee is bothering him, and they admit that he's got a knee issue. But even prior to that, he just wasn't running with the reckless abandon that he did last year. Was it a team decision? Was it a Jalen decision? Does that really even matter? He's just not doing it. And part of the effectiveness of the Eagles last year, the Miles Sanders led running game, was Jalen Hurts because he keeps the defense honest. Let's say these 13 days, whatever it is, to give him a major reprieve and his knee is better and he doesn't re-injure it going forward. Is the return of Jalen, the 50-plus yard runner, ever going to come this year for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Oh, man, that's a good question because it's like, is he not doing it because of the injury? Is that factored into why he has kind of reeled it back in? Do you take Sirianni for his word and said, well, that's why he made the money. That's what makes Jalen. Well, you're not using him the same way. That's evident. You just mapped out the stats. So have they actually reeled him back? I think this stretch of 5 games will be interesting to see where that knee is when he comes out. And then you're playing a stretch of games where really you can seal this number 1 seed. If you can get through these 5 games, you can pretty much put it out of reach. So I don't have any evidence to say, yeah, all of a sudden he's going to start being the Jalen Hurts that we saw last year. But will the playoffs, when they get to the playoff level, will then the inhibitions kind of go out the window? That's where I think I'm kind of intrigued.
I think that was the plan.
Right. To say, hey, if they're like the other day, it's 3rd and 7, I guess it was. This is in that 4th quarter stretch of just awful offense. He takes off and, it goes to third. No, it's 2nd and 8. He runs for 5 yards. It's 3rd and 3. Last year, I feel like he would have lowered himself.
Well, I think there are 2 different points to it. I think early in the season, it's different than right now. Right now, he's not doing it because he's hurt.
Right.
Early in the season, he was scaled back.
He was still trepidatious about.
Yeah.
Last year, he's getting that first down, and this year and then they end up throwing that pass down the sideline, which I said, you've got the best offensive line. You've already shown on your own 30-yard line you're going to go for it to get the yard. Now, you might say they might not go for it this time around because if you give Dallas the ball, they're on the 30-some-yard line with a chance to win the game. But if you run the ball and it's 3rd and 3, you get 2 yards, you got that tush push. He always says it's 1st and 9. Instead, they threw that ball, and that to me is kind of like –
I just think they need the threat back. They need the threat. Yep. I don't even care about the number.
Yes.
I don't care about the number. If they have the threat, DeAndre Swift turns back into what most fans think he is. Without the threat, he's just a guy running the football.
Yeah, because this offensive run game is not a traditional run game of, hey, we're going to turn around. It's very predicated on Hurts being a part of the run game. Well, he's not. So he's hurting everybody else's ability to do things. I would ask you guys, Goddard's out. Do they keep in the tight end to help block a little bit more and try to help that run game get going?
Yeah, if Stoll's going to be playing, that's what Stoll does best.
Yeah, I mean, Stoll, but I just don't think they can run the ball traditionally.
Right. Well, just adding another, because now you're almost saying, I don't really need the tight end to be a part of the route tree. We'll just keep him kind of in. I mean, you want Goddard to be a part of the route tree. Now, Goddard's a very good blocker too, by the way, but a lot of times you don't want to. I don't want to say
you want him
in that role, but now you don't really care if Jack Stoll is not going out for a pass or not.
In some ways, it makes it easier because the Eagles want to be an 11 personnel team, and now they only have 1 tight end, so they don't have to worry about it. They can just play
big Albert
receivers.
Big Albert O coming up next week.
Julio Jones, empty sets. That's what they want to do anyway.
Jordan Matthews getting a tight end job.
And speaking of threat, the return of Quez is imminent. The threat of Quez stretching the defense. Oh, my God. Watch the Eagle take off.
They did. By the way, the Eagles mentioned when they were talking at the trade deadline, the Eagles did mention Quez. They have a bit of a roster crunch coming up. And obviously, Cam Jurgens, they already put Julio on Justin Evans, and they mentioned Quez Watkins. That's just for you, Jody.
Yeah. The threat. I agree wholeheartedly with you on the Jalen threat. If he's not part of the threat, the Eagle running game just doesn't run as effectively. When I say the running game, I'm not even talking Jalen himself. I'm talking the running backs. The threat of Quez Watkins as imagined by Nick Sirianni. Yeah, sorry, Coach. I'm just not buying. All right, so no football, no Eagles football. And you're bad-mouthing the NFL product up and down, Gill. What the hell are you doing at 1 o'clock on Sunday?
I haven't looked at the college basketball schedule yet. I know the Sixers played last Saturday.
Mike Gill's going to be betting on Monmouth against whoever they're playing.
What happened to my guy Kelly Oubre in that last game? I had him as a top 10 player of the NBA until that last game.
Hey, that's the thing with the Sixers, man. They don't need Oubre to score 20 every night.
I need him to score 20.
Yeah. Oh, well, guess what? He wrecked my 9-legger. He was the one guy that didn't show up. I would have not been sitting here. I would have had a nice piece of change sitting on a beach somewhere had he scored 17 and a half or more.
I was going to say, what was the Kelly Oubre over-under number?
Over-under 17 and a half.
Oh, you got sucked in by those first couple of games.
By the way, there is a good 1 o'clock. San Francisco, Jacksonville.
Yeah, San Francisco, Jacksonville is the game we have on the radio. I know that game's on there. I know the Giants play Dallas this week. That's a bad game. I didn't look at the schedule. On Wednesdays, I do a segment where I look at the schedule for the first.
Giants are the worst team in football, by the way.
They're really bad. They're really bad. The Giants, it's amazing. I was talking about this yesterday. Last year, they finally get a taste. They're 9-8. They win a playoff game. You feel like, okay.
Worst thing that happened to them.
And then
worst thing that happened to them.
And then
and guys like Mike Gill are not even giving them enough credit. Giants were 9-7-1 last year, Gill. They did not lose 8 games. They had that all-important tie that got them to 9-7. That made them think they were better than they were even before they got to Minnesota. And then they just kind of wrote off the fact that the Eagles.
Maybe Tommy DeVito turns it around. Don Bosco Prep Zone. Tommy DeVito.
That's like the Ben DiNucci thing. It was like somebody in the Giants organization's brother, the coach at that high school.
They went to a Don Bosco Prep game back in the day. It's like St. Joe's Prep here.
You know, I'd like to see play for the Giants. Chris Sims. He's another high school Jersey star quarterback. Get him out there. Get killed.
There's a great spot. There's a great spot in this new USFL XFL merger for the Tommy DeVitos of the world. And quite frankly, I'm not sure he's starting in that league either.
Hey, be careful, bad-mouthing USFL, because I did that about the Cowboy kicker, and the guy has.
I like the spring football, and I've been saying merge the two. I'm actually
one league. I like spring football
too, that they are only taking 12 teams. They're not including all the cities.
Yeah, but that's the Rock is not giving up his piece. So the XFL is good. The USFL is going to sell.
I think it's an 8-4 split. I think there's 8 XFL teams and 4 USFL teams.
I think it's the opposite. I think it's all 8. Yeah, I think it's 4 XFL, 8 USFL.
Rock's not going to be happy about that.
And by the way,
he wants to keep his fingers in that pot.
I think Rock wants to get the hell away from it.
You think so?
Yes.
I think he loves doing those spots on Sports Center. With the guys and
I don't think he likes
live their dream and stuff like that. Rock eats that crap up.
I don't think he likes losing money. He remembers when he had $7 in his pocket. I don't think he likes.
Yeah. Oh, wait. We need to start a GoFundMe page for The Rock. No. I don't think so.
Well, that's the thing about rich people. They don't like losing money when it starts happening.
We'll see how that merger goes. All right, Mike Gill, thank you for putting up with my getting off on a tangent for A, before you got on, and then B, with the Jets. When we were on here, you handled it well, my friend. We will talk to you again next week. Go Tigers. That's Princeton I'm talking about. Go Tigers.
At Mike Gill Show on X, 97.3, the Sports Bash. I'll be on there later, I think.
If you didn't get enough of Mike Gill and John McMullen and you want to get the interloper Jody McDonald out of it, you got to listen to Mike Gill's show this afternoon on 97.
Do it.
Thanks, Mike.
Do it.
Appreciate it.
See you guys.
All right, McMullen and McDonald, Mac coming back. We've got Brooks Cabina, the new Eagles beat reporter for The Athletic. Johnny Mac was able to wrangle him yesterday. Never had him on the show before. Looking forward to getting his take.
Yeah, welcome them. Be nice, people of Philadelphia. Yeah.
Oh, you think the guys on the stream are gonna?
No,
Because he's a newbie.
I have no idea.
Yeah, they like Gill on the stream. Nobody ever badmouths him. They badmouth me to a lesser extent. They badmouth you, but they like Gill. He's a popular guy. Maybe it's the t-shirts. I got a plain black t-shirt on. Maybe I got to get a college t-shirt. All right, Johnny Mac, Jordy Mac coming back. We still got plenty of Birds 365 coming your way.